important hooks only we will do. Online or offline, if anyone doubts, you can ask me. Okay. Now let's start here from hooks today. Hooks. Hooks are the functions have naming convention convention that starts with use use in camel case. Every hook starts with the use. It should start with the use. There is no alternative. Now, how do you differentiate, sir, a function and a hook? How do you know which one is hook, which one is a function? Functions have normal names. Hooks will start with use. Hooks will start with use. Functions may export, may not export, may return, may not return. Hooks will return some values. Hooks will return some values like use state, use effect, like this. Functions may not return values, but hooks must return values. If you see, use state is returning two values. One is a value, another one is a function. Use effect is taking two values, which is like one is like the function, another one is the dependencies. Use ref is creating and returning the reference. Use context is used for taking that particular context values. Okay. Like this, every hook will do particular work. Okay. These are predefined functions only, actually created by React. React 16 introduced hooks hooks to overcome to overcome to overcome life cycle methods to overcome life cycle methods in class components. Online, is it clear, ma? Now, online or offline? Tell me, do you remember class life cycle methods, ma? In class components, we discussed class components. Did you remember life cycle methods? Bolo, any name, whatever class life cycle method you remember? Someone is saying something. Mounting nahi. Component did mount. Asli name, component did mount. Any other? Component did mount is one. Any other? Very good. Someone said it. Component did mount. Any other? Component did update. Component did unmount. Render. Are you getting my points, ma? We did this. But but this life cycle methods, do we use this life cycle methods in functional components, sir? No. Where do you use them? Class components. Where do you use them? Class components. Sir, at a different stage of components, when component started, one life cycle method will run. When component updated, one life cycle method will run. When component died, one life cycle method will run. This kind of feature is so good. But React people is like, I want this feature, but I don't want to use class components. So functional component में ये feature चाहिए. Functional component, we need one thing which will run automatically whenever function started. In functional component, I need one thing which will run automatically whenever function dies. In functional component, I want one thing to run whenever function updated. So they got this idea. They got this idea to include these lifecycle methods into the functional components. And that is called hook. Class state is possible. In functional component, state is not possible originally. That's why functional components also called stateless original. But they said it like, let's use state. Functional components be state hota, right? Then in class components, whenever you started a component, one function will automatically run. Component did mount or something kind of one. Then class component, functional component, they put a use effect. Whenever you start a function, whenever you create something, use effect will run first time automatically. Right or not? Every time you update also use effect will run. Right? Are you getting my point, ma? Like this, they created so many hooks, and that hook's main purpose is replacing the lifecycle methods. Later they put it more hooks which can do other works, like use context. It's not lifecycle method, it's used mainly for some kind of like use context is for global container. So it's like they introduced more and more. So that's why React people officially says, if you go to React class components, if you open this React website's class components, they say to you, they say to you, we recommend defining components as functions instead of classes. So they are telling you don't use classes. If you don't use classes, then how do I get it functional life cycle methods? How do I get it state? That's why they are providing hooks. They don't want class components. They want it like just use functional components. तुमको class components क्या क्या देता वो functional components भी आता. तुम hooks use करना है. Are you getting my point, ma? There are so many hooks which will provide these things. Okay. Some hooks were very important, which we will do it most of the times. We will discuss those things. And interestingly, you can create your own hook also. You can create like your own hook, like use Prasad. I told you one day that we can create it, and we will do it now. What were the most famous hooks? Most popular and important hooks are in interview they will ask you mainly these hooks. First hook they will ask. First hook they will ask. Use state. Use state is a hook used for used for used for state management. State management. Use state is a hook used for state management, which returns a value which returns a value which returns a value and a function to update the value and render the screen or render the component. Sir, basically state how they will work, sir. State will have two values. One is value, second one is a function. What that function will do? That function will update the value and render it the component one more time. For example, count de lo. Count will take that value. Count 0. You click the button. State value will be 0 will become 1. Na? So what it is doing? It is taking one variable called count and it is doing something function called set count. What the set count will do? Will update the count and render it one more time. Example. Example. Use. Oh, sorry. Const value, comma set value equals to use state some initial value. Everyone knows use state, na? If you go for interview, basic things they will ask. Component JSX props state. That is the level 1. Okay. State is a basic level 1. If you don't know state, if you don't know JSX, that means you don't know anything in React. Simple. Now, second one. Use effect. Use effect. Use effect is a hook. Is a hook used as a replacement of as a replacement of component did mount and render or component did mount and component did update life cycle methods methods. It will accept two values two values a function and dependencies array dependencies array dependencies array. Here 3 points are there. First point, if no dependency array no dependencies array, then function executes on every state change of component. Sir, we are not discussing any new thing. These things were there previous also. If only empty dependency array, only empty dependencies array, then function executes only one time, like only component did mount. If some values present in dependencies array, then function executes executes on every state change of those values. In level 2, in case if they wanted to go with something good questions, they will ask you use effect. You want it like example body. Uh-huh. Oh, good. Next one. Now, online any doubts, ma? Online and offline, anyone have doubts? This is like a revision of whatever we discussed in the hooks. Example is you will write it use effect. You will write it here one callback function and you will put it here one dependencies array. Dependencies array. Dependencies array. Online, anyone have any question, ma? Online or offline? Anyone have any question till now? You all know use state and use effect, na? For this one, no doubts. Next, next one. Third one. Use context. Use context. The most important ones only we are discussing. Use context is a hook. Is a hook. Used to take the values. Someone is asking what is it mean by component did mount? Component did mount is a life cycle method. When we discuss life cycle methods, I told you there is one function which will run every time a component started. That function name is component did mount, which we will use it in class components. Similar alternative in the functional components is use effect. Is it clear, ma online, Roshni? Yeah, good, good. Sir, use context. You can ask any silly question also, you whatever you have it, okay? Any question you have it, there is nothing wrong in asking the questions. Use context is a hook used to take the values from the global from the global global context provider from the global context provider and return those values. Example const value equals to use context. It's like here context name. Whatever the context name is there, we will write it context name. Someone is like one time use effect practical. We used many time, but please one more time. We will do it. Don't worry. Sir, while using API, we get it response, but response, we use response data. How to get it particular data, pass it to the specific component for the response. Once you get a particular data, take that particular data into one array and change that array into wherever you want. Now, I will show you one more time. Dekho here, context name. Let me show you here. I will go here. Just note it down this ma. Now, I will just show you. People were asking what is use effect with that only. I will just show you where is this use effect here. My shop. I will just show you my shop. Okay, here I used directly shop na. That is not right then. Which folder I did the API? Where did I use the API? Did I use it in projects? Yes, form search. I have it in project something like APIs only. So I will open it here. Something kind random quote. I'm opening it. SRC app. Everyone see here. Online, two people asked the same question. One is use effect, another one asked Abhijit with how to send the data to particular components. See here. Now I did this very simple logic in the app. I take one state variable quat and set quat. I used use effect. Why did you write it API in use effect only? Because use effect will run whenever you start your application. Like a component did mount, it will work whenever you start your application. I started application. Inside the use effect, you see one function is there and second one array is there. Can you see array is here empty? If array is empty, how many times it will run, ma? One time. Only first time it will run. Now in that what you did, I used fetch. I got the data. Whatever the data I gave it to, then response. Fetch will return a promise. Fetch will return a promise is solved by then and catch. Then and catch. Inside the then, I got response. From the response, I converted into JSON. Response I converted into whatever the JSON converted response is there. Again, I put it inside the then. In this, I used data. And whatever the data I got, the data I am storing it inside the set quote. I used it set quote. If I use set quote, where the data will be stored? Online, everyone see it here. If I use set quote, where the data will be stored? Quote inside the set quote. What is the use of set quote? Set quote is a function which will store that object inside the quote. Inside the quote variable only now. Now inside the quote variable data is there now. So I just printed it. Simple. Any doubts? Online, any doubts, ma? If we have 10 different datas, you can put it. See, data will be one only. Data will be either array, either object, any one only. Inside that data, you will have thousands. Someone is like, why did you use quote dot quote? What is the object, sir? In that quote object, you will have two values. What is the name I give? For example, sir, here name give P. कुछ नहीं होता. Then P is a object. Inside that P, what is there? Inside that object P, other is there. Both will work. If I go to this API, in that API, you will see I am getting one object. Now, in this object, something quotation is there. In this object, something other is there. Online, did you get my point, ma? Online, did you get my point? If I go here, terminal, new terminal, CD, projects, CD, random quote, random quote, random quote. Now, now here, npm run dev. It will run the application. It will run the application. Now I'm getting the application now here. We have used dot notation to access the data. Any doubts? Now, sir, I will do one nice logic. Anyone tell me what will happen. I'm going to do one nice logic. Anyone can tell me what will happen. Set timeout, comma, 5000. Now anyone bolo. Sorry. Now, anyone bolo, what will happen? It will wait till 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, API will call and you will get the data. See? Am I getting anything? After 5 seconds आ जाता. और इधर भी जाओ. Here, here for empty array only. देखो, sir, for empty array, it's like only one time na. For empty array, you will get it only one time execute. It will execute only one time. Now, let me make it more interesting. I will do set interval. Set interval. Now here, set interval. Let's go here. Put it 1000 seconds. Go here. Now, sir, after 1 second, I got it. See here. Every 1 second, I'm getting different na. Now, how many times use effect run? Now, anyone see this code? Anyone see this code? How many times use effect run? How many times use effect run? One time. Very good. No, some people are saying it like every 1 second. That's wrong. यूज इफेक्ट रन वन टाइम ओनली. यूज इफेक्ट के अंदर एक फंक्शन है, वो फंक्शन मल्टीपल टाइम्स कॉल कर रहा है बिकॉज दे आर इनसाइड द सेट इंटरवल. यूज इफेक्ट को मालूम नहीं. यूज इफेक्ट को डोंट नो लाइक व्हाट इज दैट पर्टिकुलर फंक्शन इज डूइंग. यूज इफेक्ट विल बी लाइक आई विल कॉल यू वंस, बट function is calling multiple times another function. Use effect is calling this set interval actually. This set interval guy is calling another function for every 1 second. It's up to their particular function. Na? Online, is it clear, ma? Online, is it clear, ma? Sir, why we written callback in use effect? Is it necessary? Yes. Every time use effect will have two things. One is callback. Without callback, where do you write function only? We will write one callback function and we will put one array. Online, any doubts? Online, any doubts? No. Pass value to array. What value you want it? Without fetch, can we write use effect? The fetch is like getting the value only. Okay. Show the fetch. If there is no fetch, imagine there is no fetch here. I will just write it here. Console.log hello world. Console.log hello world. Will it work or not? अच्छा देखो. If I write console.log hello world, use effect will print hello world ना. ये छोड़ दो. हाँ. अभी वर्क होता ना. Use effect will run ना. See, use effect doesn't need anything. Use effect doesn't need like fetch. Use effect doesn't need set timeout. Use effect doesn't need set interval. Use effect का काम यही है. एक function will be there. That function will be called multiple times. If you have it at a state array, if you are not having state array, it will call on every state. If you put it empty array, it will call one time. That's a simple logic. Any kind of doubt you have it, you can tell me. Someone is asking question. I mean, I have an empty array and some value present in the array dependency. You put it here, array dependency. Like for example, every time quad changes, call it one more time. The moment quad is updated, it will go for another one. Or like for example, I will put it here. If you have two values in the array, every time the value changes, every time, for example, I have two values, X and Y. If X state changes also use effect will be called. If Y state change also use effect will be called. Right? Let's create one counter, sir. Const count, comma. That is why I am telling it to you. Practice. Believe me. See, we all forget what we eat yesterday only, Ray. If you don't practice it, na, this is the problem. Even though we discuss it, after 10 days, if someone asks use effect, again your mind will be like use effect क्या है? क्योंकि तुम practice नहीं कर दिया. One more time. Use effect, I gave state value 0. I gave here p value z count. And here button plus on click and update set count plus 1. Now, if I do this, count value will be incremented, na? But I will give it here in the array count. That means every time count is updated, I will just write it here. Every time count is updated, call this function one more time. First, I got it one value, sir. Dekho. I got it here. See, I got it here. One quotation, na? Everyone, I got one quotation, na? Every time count is updated, I wanted to call one more time. Now count is count is 1. When count is changing, again use effect is calling, na? Again fetch is calling, na? So again new quotation is coming, na? Because you gave value inside this. If you put two values on two state changes, it will go. Online, is it clear, ma? Online, any doubts here? Are everyone clear with use effects? Basic questions in the job interview. Use state, use effect, use context. They are like the basic pillars. Now, what is use context, sir? Use context solves one problem. Can anyone tell me what is the problem use context API solves? Huh? Prop drilling. What it will do? Prop drilling. Now, if you see, now go here, context API here. Let me show you the context API demo 1. SRC inside the app.jsx. Now, in this application, sir, in this application, there is one app. See here, app. App ke inside, what is the component here? Component 1. App inside component 1. Now, inside the component 1, you have another application component 2. Inside the component 2, another component called component 3. Here I am using the count value component 3. Sir, app is having one value called count. काउंट के ऐप के अंदर कंपोनेंट 1 कंपोनेंट के 1 के अंदर कंपोनेंट 2 के अंदर कंपोनेंट 3 so you need to give count value from app to component 3. In olden days people will give app to component 1, component 1 to component 2, component 2 to component 3, like that they will give. But how do they go from one point to another point like that? That is prop drilling problem. But problem is prop drilling, like how, like I gave it to you, you gave it to another person, another person, another person. That is wrong. Instead, I want it like directly app to give to the component 3. For that, we will use context API. How do the context API will work? You will create one context. 3 steps. I told in the notes also. 3 steps. First step is creating the context. What is the context name here? My context. It's like a big box. Big box. Now, inside this context, I put 2 values. Can you see here how many values I put? One is count, another one is name. These two values, I put it inside the box, inside the context. Now, where do you want it to get? I wanted to get in component 3. In component 3, I am using use context, context name. Here, dekho, here both the values I am taking. I can take one value or both the values. I take two values. So you don't need to pass it to component 1 and component 2. Directly component 3 can take that values. Okay. That is called context API. Someone is asking what is difference between use state, use effect, context, use context. There is no relation only. There is no relation between them. Use state ka kaam state management. Use effect ka kaam working on a kind of asynchronous operations. Use context ka kaam taking the context API values. That's it. तीनों तीन different values है. Online, is it clear, ma? Online, is it clear? Yeah. Please understand, in interviews, you should be 100% sure. Okay. Now, good. Next one. Next one. Next hook, which is important. We know four hooks which are important actually. Next hook, which is important, is called use ref. Use ref is used for DOM manipulations. Use ref is used for DOM manipulations. Use ref is used for DOM manipulations and and dealing with inputs. Dealing with inputs. Usually we used in uncontrolled components. Okay. Use ref. We used it. Use ref. Someone is asking how many hooks are there. There are so many hooks are there actually, kind of, 20, 30 hooks are there. Most important hooks are seven hooks are important. Okay. Seven hooks are most important. Const, you can take one value. You can give one value. You can give const value equals to use ref. Use ref. I think you remembered use ref also. You will give each element. For example, if I write this, if I write it here, paragraph, something like paragraph. For paragraph, if I give it here reference equals to value, then automatically this paragraph, whatever is there, I can able to see. In this paragraph, whatever is there, I can see it here clearly. In this paragraph, what is the text content, what is the style, what is the animation, everything I can change it using this value. Okay, that is the use of use ref. It will create one attribute called a reference. It's like giving the people a name. Next important hooks are use callback, use callback. We have three things: use callback, use memo, and use reducer. Okay, if we know these things, we can create our own custom hooks also. Okay, that is also important. Custom hook, creating our own custom hook. Use callback. It is used. It is used for caching the callback functions. Callback functions. It caches. It caches functions to prevent to prevent unnecessary re-renderings. Unnecessary, unnecessary re-renders. Re-renders. What does it mean by caching? Does anyone know caching here? Cache memory, you don't know? It's a temporary memory. It's a temporary memory. It's like for fast loading. For example, you are watching one YouTube video. Already 10 minutes you watched in that video. Suddenly your power gone. You can actually watch whatever the video already loaded. Na? You are watching one YouTube reel or something like Insta reel. Suddenly your net chal gaya. That same reel whichever played will play it 100 times also. Na? Your Insta feed got already loaded. After your Insta feed loaded, you turned off the internet. Still you can see that feed na? Because instead of loading it into particular server, instead of going to the server and load it one more time, it will store into your particular browser or your particular system in some memory called cache memory. It is a temporary memory used for fast loading, so you don't need to hit the server every time. You don't need to hit the server every time. It will load it in the temporary value. Online, are you getting my point, man? Online, are you getting my point? So, for example, one function is there. Some function is there. For this function, I am passing one value 5. For this function, I am passing some values 5. This function is working on something kind of. Okay. Now, every time, imagine this function runs. Imagine every time this function runs, your component re-renders like something state logic or something kind of one. Every time your function runs, this particular function will run. Every time this function runs, every time your component also re-renders. But I don't want it. I want it like whatever the value comes from this function, I want it to stop it once it runs one time, so that next time it can use the previous value instead of loading it one more time. Instead of loading it from the server one more time, I wanted to use the value which is previously exist to avoid some kind of uh, re-rendering. This one will improve your performance of the website. Are you getting my point, ma? Online, are you getting my point? Online, are you getting my point? Now, next. Okay. We will do the example. Don't worry. Now, let me do it one simple example. Let's go here. Let's go to the terminal. CD code npm create with latest hooks demo react javascript cd hooks demo npm install. It will install the application. Npm install npm run dev. Now it's running inside this application. Go inside this code hooks, create it here. I will create it here one more folder components. Inside this components, callback hook or hook use callback dot jsx. I created one component RFCA. Always, if you remember, sir, always I love to create separate components and I wanted to combine that separate components into app. Don't directly do it in the app. I know it will work, but if you directly do it in the app, it won't work. It won't be good. Okay. Now, online, if any doubts, you can tell me, ma. Sir, till what we are discussing, all concepts are in React Native, sir. Yes, they are there. But this is not the class for React Native. But actually, whatever the concepts we discussed are there in React Native also. Router DOM will not be there. That's it. They have different router DOM, not the React router DOM. They have separate native DOM. Now go here, RFCE. Inside this, I will write it here. Use, sorry, hook import. Okay, I did a mistake, sir, everyone. Normally, component starts from the capital letter. Component should start with the capital letter. Hook, hook. Go here. Online, anyone have any doubts, ma? Online, any doubts, ma? Online, any doubts? No. Now, everyone, let's see this example. Simple example I will do. Const, const, count, count, comma, set count, set count equals to use state initially 0 inside this paragraph. Every day we do this count example, ma, actually. That counter example, if you see basic template of React application, which will give you count example. You know, counter example only why they give. Using that one counter example, you can actually learn whole React. The counter example is so powerful. You can learn all the hooks also using that counter example. Now let me do it here. A simple button, click me, on click, on click, on click, set count, set count, count plus 1. Now inside this one, I will write it here. I will just pass this particular one child component. I'm just passing click function, something like set count. or you don't need that also. I will just stop it here. I will just go here. I will go to the use callback hook. I am child component, child component. Now this child component will have directly a value console.log hello world. Online everyone focus here, ma. Online and offline everyone focus here. A simple example. See the main parent component. Parent component has everyone focus here. Parent component has three things. One is count, set count, and a child component. What is the default count value? 0. What is the default count value? Very good. What is the like if I click that button, what will happen? 0 will become 1. Sir, every time when 0 becomes 1, the component re-renders, right or not? Then only you can see it on screen. Na? You know the internal what will happen. Component re-render, it will create virtual DOM, compare the virtual DOMs and push it whatever changes only. Now, sir, when it re-renders, you have it one child component, na? Right or not? Child component के अंदर एक value है. And here child component के अंदर what I am printing console.log hello world. What I am doing console.log. Now here everyone see this logic. Right click, inspect, console.log, refresh. Can you see hello world came? Now if I click here, can you see hello world came one more time? Can you see hello world came one more time? This is a problem. Why? Every time parent component updating, child component is also re-rendering. Na? Did I render the child component? No. I'm not re-rendering child component because there is no change in the child component. Child component में कुछ change नहीं है. Child component exact same. It is printing I'm child component. It is printing console hello world. There is no change only. There is no problem only. But still, even though there is no problem, this guy is repeating multiple times. Every time parent state is changing, child is also coming one more time. And this one will create it so much problems, right or not? Performance will be decreasing, na? Imagine in my child component, so much big code is there. That whole code will run. Imagine parent having 10 child components. All child components will run, which we don't want. So I don't want this child to re-render again and again whenever the parent changes. Not only that, I wouldn't want some functions to re-render it again and again. In that cases, you will use something called use callback. What you will use, ma? Use callback. Online, is it clear, sir? Till now, online, is it clear? Online, is it clear till now? Now, good. Now, all you will do is go to the parent, write it here in the parent, use callback, use callback. Now, in this use callback also works like the same like use effect. Here it takes two things. One is the callback function, another one is dependency array. Now, if I take it here, one callback, and a dependency array. Now, now console.log log hello world, hello world, console.log hello world. You can put it here, same logic. However, the use effect works same way. That's why repeated use effect. However, the use effect works same way. This use callback also. Difference is use callbacks checks it the child components or any re-renderings. Use effect is used for different purpose. Use effect is used for asynchronous operations or something. Use callback is like now it will check like this. Use callback is like I am doing the child component. Child component one time run. First time running, what it is printing. Hello world. अच्छा है. Second time running, it will not run. Hello world है ना? वो print करो. Until or unless you updated and printed an another value instead of hello world, it will not change it. It will be like one time you wanna print it that only. Now I just use callback. I will just store this value const sg. It's like I will just write it here. MSG is like message. Message. Now this message it will print. Now go here. Why it printed the whole function, right? It shouldn't print a whole function. Mm-hmm. 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 We'll call it. Now go here. See, it printed hello world. Now when I update it, why it printed, right? It shouldn't print it now. Whenever parent component did, why the child component got it same thing. I used use callback. Use callback hook. Parent component created one logic. MSG. MSG. Correct. Correct. But it shouldn't. Mhm. React dot memo. Will it work? It's not working now. MSG is not a function. Who said that? MSG is a function. Now see. Now everyone see this logic. Now see this one. Now parent is rendering now. Is child is calling? Is child is calling? No. Here two things. First one, use effect should create one function. Use callback should create one function. This use callback, whatever the created function, this function will be stored inside one value. Now MSG. MSG is having one value. What is the value of MSG? Hello world. What is the value of MSG? It's like you are, for example, first time Instagram reel loaded. This loaded reel should store it some places, na? This loaded reel should save some place, na? That place is like this callback. Use callback create. That wherever it is reel loaded, that one, that MSG, I am sending it into the child component. Now child component received it. Child component printed it. Till now fine. After child component, again it will come to parent component, na? Now parent component updated one more time. When parent component updated one more time, child component went. Can you see I put something called react.memo? React.memo is a higher order component. To the people who don't know what is higher order, the function which takes callback function is called higher order function. You know that na? देखो here use callback के अंदर एक callback function है ना, use effect के अंदर एक callback function है ना. Any function which takes another function in its parameter is called higher order function. Any component which takes another component inside it is called higher order component. What is it called? Higher order component. Now देखो, React memo is a higher order component. What it will do, it will check this particular use hook, this particular component, whether MSG is same or different. Is MSG or same or different, ma? Same means it will not return. If it is different only, it will return. If prop value is different only, it will return. So you loaded the Insta, one reel you loaded. The moment you loaded the Insta reel, you should save this na in memory. Save it in cache memory na. Who will do this? Use callback will do. Who will do this ma? Use callback. Then this use callback is giving to some function. It is giving to some function. For example, printing screen. Printing on the screen. Sir, Insta reel loaded. It is giving to the screen. On screen, the Insta reel will come. Till now, any doubts? No. First load, reel will load. Then it will come to screen. Now in screen, you saw that. After you saw that, again you want to see second time. When it is seeing second time, na, what it will do? It will go to something called react.memo. React.memo. This react.memo, what it will do? It will check. It will check. Is it same or different? Different. Is it same or different, ma? Same na? Then it will not load anything. It will normally print it. If it is different na, again it will go to the server and load it. If it is same reel, it will not load. It will print it. If it is different one, it will print it. One function which we wanted to cache and we don't want it re-render to expense again and again, we will use something called use callback. Online, is it clear, ma? Online, is it clear, ma? Online, is it clear? Online and offline. Understand it? This one is very important in performance. Use effect, use callback, and use memo also. Both will be there. Tomorrow we will discuss